is a researcher at George Washington University focusing on conflict and government in sub-Saharan Africa. He also worked with a variety of organizations, including the Aspen Institute, Freedom House, and Safer World. These disputes, concerned about them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think several questions continue to plague the transition, namely the fact that the military and the opposition groups have yet to actually agree on the Sovereignty Council. But most importantly, when it comes to Bashir's trial, the crimes that he's being accused of are only a fraction of the real heinous, violent crimes that were committed under his rule. Several opposition activists are saying that he must face the questions of genocide, crimes against humanity that happened during his time in power.
It's interesting you bring that up because that is a common complaint. And then there are those who support him who say, look, he's been made the scapegoat. A lot of these people in the military should also be tried if you're going to try anybody. I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, of course, a regime like that's been in power for 30 years is certainly not one individual. The reality is that the current Transitional Military Council itself has actually been accused of perpetrating crimes during Bashir's tenure, but also after he was deposed. For example, the deputy of the Transitional Military Council is accused of perpetrating the massacre that took place on June 3rd, which killed about 100 protesters. These individuals, of course, must face justice, but at what risk? The opposition, of course, doesn't want to put the transition at risk, but I think many people will not accept this current agreement.
Let me ask you about an article that you wrote back in 2015 when a top advisor from Sudan came and basically sold the Obama administration. I want to get at what you said, that Sudan is an island of stability in an ocean of instability because there's all this conflict, South Sudan, Central African Republic, Somalia, Libya, all in the region. That was kind of a mirage though, wasn't it? Talk to me about Bashir and how he was able to stay in power and how he was able to convince people we're one thing when actually you make the point he wasn't that at all.
Yeah, well, so that quote actually came from the foreign minister who was trying to propagate this idea that Sudan actually is surrounded by these unstable countries. You have Libya, you have South Sudan, of course, you have the conflict in Yemen. But in reality, Bashir stayed in power precisely because he's been able to actually manipulate the regional politics around him. For example, he basically provided Sudanese young children, according to the New York Times, to fight on behalf of the Saudis in Yemen. He also obviously played a central role in cooperating with the United States on counterterrorism, and at the same time he cooperated with the European Union to stem the flow of migrants from the Horn of Africa to Libya and further on to Europe. So Bashir himself was actually toppled in spite of the interests around Sudan and the global interests. It was because the Sudanese people basically couldn't survive anymore. The economic situation was too unbearable for them.
We've got about 20 seconds, but give me your thoughts. What is your greatest fear moving forward as Sudan basically turns the page on this chapter?
I think my biggest fear is for the economy. The current situation is really, really unstable. Most people right now are hoping that there'll be a emergency package that will help recover from the 30 years of corruption and mismanagement.
Ahmed, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.